Right now, like at this exact second, thousands of perfectly rational, law-abiding adults are standing in these brightly lit rooms, just sweating profusely over 3.4 ounces of shampoo.
Oh, absolutely. Just completely panicking.
Right. I mean, they're gripping a quart-sized plastic bag like it's some kind of ticking device. Their heart rate is totally elevated. And they're literally rehearsing basic English sentences in their head just in case a person in a blue uniform asks them a question.
It's a universal experience at this point.
It really is.
Right.
And it makes you wonder, why does a totally mundane collection of travel toiletries have the power to just mentally break us? And more importantly, how can learning to decipher those garbled, static-filled announcements at a boarding gate actually give you your psychological power back?
That is exactly what we are getting into today.
Yes, it is. So welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, our mission is laser-focused entirely on you, the listener. We are basically taking the psychological blueprint of the modern airport and turning it completely inside out.
Because the goal here is a total transformation.
Exactly. We want to take you from being this passive, anxious passenger who feels like they're just barely surviving the terminal and transform you into a traveler who can navigate this really high-stress, unpredictable environment with, well, absolute mastery.
And that transformation, it's so critical because we so rarely acknowledge what an airport actually is, you know?
We really do.
Like, we treat it like it's just a bus stop that happens to have a Cinnabon. But cognitively speaking, it is a highly controlled, incredibly rigid, high-stakes testing environment.
A testing environment. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, the modern aviation security apparatus, it is specifically designed to overwhelm your senses, to command your absolute obedience, and to basically strip away all your normal social defenses.
Which brings us perfectly to the fascinating piece of source material we're unpacking today. It's this very targeted English guide.
Yeah.
And it's called Clearance in Cabin, Mastering the Airport Protocol.
Such an intense title.
It really is.
Yeah.
Now, at first glance, you might think this just looks like a straightforward travel manual.
Yeah.
Right, like a little booklet on how to get your shoes off faster or, when exactly to have your boarding pass ready.
Which would be helpful, but it's so much deeper than that.
So much deeper. When you actually dive into the text, you realize it's something entirely different. It is this profound psychological breakdown of how human beings interact with authority.
Right.
It's about how our brains process rules when we're put under artificial pressure, and how incredibly easily our normal everyday functioning can just completely crumble.
It's almost scary how fast it happens.
Oh, yeah. And we are going to explore all of this through a very specific scenario that the text provides. It's a case study, basically, of a traveler named Bruce. And Bruce faces this incredibly stressful, highly relatable encounter right at the security checkpoint.
Poor Bruce. He really serves as the perfect avatar for you, the listener, in this deep dive.
He really does.
His whole ordeal, with just a simple bag of liquids, it highlights the exact cognitive traps that the airport environment sets up for us. But, before we can even dissect Bruce's specific crisis, we really have to establish the foundational philosophy that this whole source material operates on.
Right, because it's not just a list of tips.
Exactly. The text introduces this overarching framework of what they call an unyielding airport protocol. And it pairs that with what honestly seems like an impossible goal, which is achieving total confidence.
Total confidence. Let's start right there, actually, with the title itself. Clearance in Cabin.
Yeah.
Mastering the Airport Protocol. Every single word in that title feels so heavy and, very deliberate.
Oh, they definitely chose those words carefully.
Take the word clearance, for example. They didn't call the guide getting through security or, surviving the TSA. They used clearance.
Right.
And why that specific word? Because to me, it really implies this fundamental shift in your status as a human being. It implies that you are inherently suspect until some central authority officially alters your state of being.
That linguistic choice is incredibly telling. I mean, clearance is a term lifted directly from the military and from intelligence sector.
Oh, true. Like a security clearance.
Exactly. Security clearances, clearance to engage, clearance to enter a restricted zone. It has absolutely nothing to do with hospitality or customer service.
No, not at all.
When you are seeking clearance, you are fundamentally acknowledging a massive power disparity. You are stating that the entity granting this clearance holds absolute power over your immediate physical future.
You're basically at their mercy.
You are. You are, in essence, petitioning the apparatus of the state for the fundamental right of physical movement. You're asking permission to proceed. And the text pairs this really intense trial of clearance with the ultimate destination, which they call the cabin.
The cabin. I love that. It sounds almost mythical when you put it like that. Like it's this sanctuary waiting at the end of the gauntlet.
And functionally, it is a sanctuary. I mean, if clearance is the interrogation and the trial, then the cabin is the reward. It's the ultimate safe harbor.
It really feels that way when you finally sit down.
Think about the actual physiological shift that happens when you finally step onto the plane. The doors close behind you, and they literally seal out the chaotic acoustics of the airport terminal.
Oh, the noise just drops instantly.
Exactly. The harsh fluorescent lighting of the terminal is replaced by these softer, controlled cabin lights. The unpredictable crowds of people bumping into you are gone.
Replaced by just your one designated seat.
Right, a seat that belongs exclusively to you for the entire duration of the flight. You're offered a beverage, you can watch a movie, you can go to sleep. The pressure just vanishes.
The relief is palpable.
It is. But the source material makes this very rigid assertion. It says that you cannot access the sanctuary of the cabin without first fully mastering the apparatus of clearance.
You have to earn it.
You have to earn it. And the bridge that connects these two entirely different worlds, the chaotic terminal and the peaceful cabin, is what the authors call the protocol.
Protocol. Again, just another heavily loaded word. I mean, it doesn't say mastering airport etiquette or like airport suggestions.
Well, etiquette implies a choice.
Exactly. A protocol isn't something you just interpret. It's something you execute.
Oh.
It feels very algorithmic to me. Like step 1, step 2, step 3. And if you dare to skip step 2, the entire system just throws a massive error code.
And that algorithmic nature, that is the defining characteristic of a micro-society.
A micro-society. What do you mean by that?
Well, the moment you cross that threshold from the sidewalk outside into the departure hall, the standard social norms that govern your normal daily life, they are entirely suspended.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
They are completely replaced by strict mandatory protocols. Just consider the sheer absurdity of the airport environment for a second. In the outside world, if some random stranger in a uniform demanded that you take off your shoes, remove your belt, and hand over your extremely expensive laptop, what would you do?
I would call the police immediately. That's a robbery.
Exactly. That is a crime. But inside the microsociety of the airport, doing anything other than immediately complying with those exact demands is actually a federal offense.
That is such a wild paradigm shift when you really think about it.
It is. The protocol is this rigid set of behaviors that has been engineered purely for massive logistical throughput and threat detection. It is completely devoid of any considerations for human comfort or, individuality.
They're just a number.
Right. And the source text is essentially telling us that to survive this environment without incurring some kind of psychological damage, you absolutely must learn its specific unwritten constitution.
Okay, well, let me push back on this a little bit because I'm looking at the subtitle of the guide. It says, Travel with Total Confidence, which sounds super appealing, obviously.
Of course it does.
But based on what you're describing, is this source material really teaching us how to be confident? Or is it just teaching us how to be, like, extremely compliant robots?
That's a very fair question.
Because it sounds like we are just participating in this highly choreographed piece of theater where every single person just has to know their lines. The TSA agent has their script, the passenger has their script, and mastering the protocol just means you figured out how to be a perfectly frictionless little cog in a giant machine that you had absolutely no voice in designing. So where is the actual agency in that?
See, that is the central philosophical tension of the entire text. It's a great point. It might seem on the surface like the goal is pure, unquestioning submission.
Yeah, that's how it reads at first.
But the source suggests a really subtle yet crucial distinction, and that distinction is between blind compliance and active anticipation.
Active anticipation. Okay, unpack that for me.
Well, think about a passenger who is merely compliant. They are still existing in a highly reactive state. They literally stand there and wait to be yelled at to take off their shoes, and only then do they scramble to untie them.
Right, they're always one step behind.
Exactly. They wait to be handed the gray bin, and then they start fumbling with their laptop case. They are constantly experiencing friction and stress because they are constantly reacting to authority.
They're letting the authority dictate the pace.
Yes. A master of the protocol, however, anticipates the cue. Before you even reach the conveyor belt, your pockets are totally empty. Your laptop is already accessible. Your liquids are pulled out and ready.
You're already ahead of the game.
You are smoothly interfacing with the system on your own terms. By anticipating the demands, you actually remove the friction entirely.
Oh, I see.
You actively deny the system the opportunity to correct you, or to slow you down, or to bark orders at you. So reclaiming your agency by actively eliminating the friction that is the text's very definition of total confidence in a space that was literally engineered to strip you of it.
Reclaiming agency by eliminating friction. I really like that distinction. It's just the whole mindset from, being this helpless victim of the security line to being more like a strategist who is actively navigating a complex puzzle.
Exactly. It's a game you can win.
And that brings us right to the very first major friction point that the source identifies. This is the place where that strategy is tested the most severely. And that is the language of authority at the security checkpoint.
Yes. The source actually highlights understanding instructions from security officers as the absolute first critical skill for any traveler to master.
Which is kind of funny when you think about it.
Well, right. Fundamentally, we have to pause and ask why a published guide needs to teach grown adults how to understand really basic instructions.
Because it's just English.
Exactly. In the vast majority of domestic airports, you are dealing with native speakers communicating with other native speakers. Or at the very least, you have officers using highly standardized, universally recognized English commands.
There's no complex vocabulary.
None at all. Yet communication breaks down at the conveyor belt constantly. People just freeze, they stare blankly. Or worse, they do the exact opposite of what they were just explicitly told to do.
I honestly see it every single time I fly. And to be fair, I experience it myself. I consider myself a relatively articulate, intelligent person.
Most of us do.
Right. But I get up to that stack of gray plastic bins. I'm holding my shoes in one hand, my boarding pass in the other. And suddenly it's like my brain just completely flatlines.
The panic sets in.
It does. And the instructions are incredibly basic. It's just, laptops in a separate bin, shoes on the belt, step forward.
Very simple sentences.
But the environment makes it feel like I am suddenly trying to diffuse a highly complex explosive device while someone reads me instructions in a language I only vaguely remember taking in high school. So why does my listening comprehension just completely plummet the very moment I step up to the belt?
What you are experiencing there is a severe cognitive bottleneck. And the fascinating thing is, it is entirely by design.
By design, really?
Yes. The physical and social environment of the checkpoint induces a very specific biological response that actively degrades your brain's ability to process language.
Okay, now that is wild.
Let's think about the unique communication style of a security officer. It is inherently authoritative. It is incredibly rapid, it is highly repetitive, and it is entirely context-heavy.
They definitely have a specific cadence.
They do, because these officers are legally mandated to process thousands of highly unpredictable human beings every single hour. To achieve that kind of massive throughput, they strip away all the normal conversational padding that we constantly rely on in everyday society.
The padding, like being polite.
Exactly. They do not use pleasantries, they don't use filler words, they rely almost exclusively on sharp, imperative verbs. Move, stop, take it out, wait, empty your pockets.
Right. There is absolutely no, "Hi there, how are you doing today? If you wouldn't mind terribly, could you please place your laptop in the bin?"
No, never.
It is just a relentless barrage of commands.
And your brain, frankly, is just not equipped to process a barrage of contextless commands while simultaneously managing a highly elevated threat response.
A threat response, just from the TSA line.
Yes. When you approach that security checkpoint, your amygdala, which is the little almond-shaped mass of gray matter inside your brain that deals with experiencing emotions, particularly fear, it gets intensely triggered.
So my brain thinks I'm in danger.
Subconsciously, yes. You are suddenly confronted by uniformed authority figures. You are bombarded by loud, overlapping, chaotic noises.
Oh, the noise is the worst.
The loud clanking of the plastic bins being stacked, the sharp beeping of the metal detectors, the overlapping shouts of different officers giving different instructions to different people.
It's sensory overload.
Total sensory overload. Plus, you are standing under really harsh, unflattering fluorescent lighting. And perhaps most intensely, you feel the physical and psychological pressure of 100 impatient people standing directly behind you in line, actively judging your speed.
They really are judging you. I know I judge the people in front of me. So my brain is essentially interpreting the entire TSA line as like a physical predator.
In a rudimentary biological sense, yes. Your brain perceives a high-stakes scenario where a powerful authority figure is evaluating you, and that specific evaluation determines your immediate physical freedom.
Wow.
The moment that threat level elevates, the stress hormone cortisol absolutely floods your system. And this chemical reaction physically alters how your brain prioritizes its internal
It
tasks.
changes how my brain works in real time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The energy and the blood flow that would normally go straight to your prefrontal cortex, which is the area responsible for complex logic, working memory, and advanced language comprehension, that energy is suddenly diverted to basic survival functions. Your working memory drastically shrinks.
I'm going to make sure I'm really wrapping my head around this. So it's basically like a computer running out of RAM.
That's a great way to think about it.
Like in my normal life, sitting at home, I have plenty of RAM to listen to a full sentence, process its meaning, and execute the physical action. But standing in the security line, my brain has like 20 heavy background programs running simultaneously. It's running programs like, am I holding up the line? Did I empty my left pocket? Wait, where is my boarding pass? Is my belt buckle going to set off the alarm? Are those people behind me staring at my weird socks?
Yes, that is a perfect analogy. Your cognitive RAM is just entirely maxed out by environmental processing and intense anxiety management.
There's nothing left for language.
Exactly. So when the officer barks a seemingly simple but compound sentence at you, something like, take your laptop out of the bag and ensure absolutely nothing is in your pockets before stepping into the scanner, your overwhelmed, cortisol-soaked brain simply does not have the bandwidth to buffer that whole sentence.
It just crashes.
It crashes. It might only catch the words laptop and scanner.
Oh, I've done that.
The connecting logic, the specific sequencing of the events, it's totally lost to the noise. So you end up, putting your laptop directly into the scanner without a bin, or you walk right into the metal detector with your cell phone still gripped in your hand.
And then they yell at you again, which just makes the panic worse.
Right. And the basic language comprehension fails not because the actual words were too hard, but because the biological machine trying to process them is right in the middle of a controlled crash.
Ban. Which perfectly and somewhat tragically sets the stage for the absolute star of our source material today. Our main case study, the cautionary tale. Let's talk about Bruce.
Ah, yes. Bruce and the liquids.
Bruce and his liquids.
Yeah.
The text gives us this wonderfully concise, highly relatable little scenario. It just reads, Bruce is nervous about his liquids and gets pulled aside for a bag check.
It's such a simple sentence.
It is. That is the entire sentence in the guide, but there's an absolute novel's worth of human suffering packed right into those few words. Let's really analyze Bruce's internal state here. It says, Bruce is nervous about his liquids. I really want you, the listener, to actively put yourself in Bruce's shoes for a second. Think about your own bathroom cabinet at home.
This really highlights a truly bizarre psychological phenomenon that is just entirely unique to the airport protocol. And that is this intense hyperfixation on the completely mundane.
Hyperfixation.
Yeah.
Because normal things become scary.
Exactly. In literally any other context in human existence, a half-empty bottle of body wash and a travel-sized tube of toothpaste are the most boring, insignificant objects imaginable.
They just sit in your shower.
Right, you don't give them a second thought. But the very moment you attempt to pack them into a carry-on bag and take them to an airport, they magically transform into heavily regulated contraband.
They literally become weapons in the eyes of the state.
They become objects of intense federal regulatory scrutiny. They must fit into a very specific transparent plastic bag. They must adhere to a strict, non-negotiable volumetric limit, which is typically 3.4 ounces or 100 milliliters.
And they are so strict about that limit.
Oh, absolutely. If the bottle says 4 ounces printed on the side, even if it is almost completely empty, it is a hard violation of the protocol. This rigid framework takes the completely mundane and turns it into a source of intense psychological weight.
And the really tragic thing about Bruce is he almost certainly knows all the rules.
Most people do.
He isn't trying to smuggle anything actually dangerous. He probably went out to the pharmacy the night before and specifically bought the little overpriced travel-sized bottles. He probably shoved them into a clear Ziploc bag exactly like he was told.
He did everything right.
But the protocol is so inherently intimidating that it just breeds this irrational, creeping doubt. So Bruce is standing in that long line, shifting his weight from foot to foot, and his brain is just spiraling.
It's the anxiety loop.
He's thinking, wait, is this face lotion 3.4 ounces or 4 ounces? Did I accidentally pack my full-size shaving cream by mistake? Is my contact lens solution considered a medical exemption, or does it count as a regular liquid?
It's so relatable.
And then Does the Ziploc bag have to seal completely shut, or is it okay if it's like bursting open a little bit at the top? He's just totally freaking out over nothing.
And that internal spiral, that specific creeping doubt you just perfectly described, that's exactly what sets the trap for Bruce.
Oh.
Because Bruce's internal nervousness creates a devastating, self-fulfilling prophecy. To understand why, we have to look at how the security apparatus actually functions in practice.
Okay, let's look at it.
We all know the machines detect density in metal. But the human officers, specifically the behavior detection officers and the people managing the lines, they rely heavily on behavioral profiling.
Behavioral profiling.
Yes, they are constantly actively scanning the crowd, and they are looking for anomalies. They spend all day establishing a baseline of normal, bored, slightly irritated passenger behavior.
Which is most of us.
Right. And they are actively looking for anyone who deviates in any way from that specific baseline.
So what are they actually looking for? Because when we say behavioral profiling, it sounds like they're reading minds, but they are really just looking at body language, right?
Exactly. They are looking for microexpressions and involuntary physiological responses. They look for things like excessive sweating, like Bruce. They look for inappropriate attire for the weather, like wearing a heavy coat in summer. They look for rigid posture or a stiff neck. They look for erratic eye trajectories.
What does that mean? Erratic eye trajectories.
It means someone who is constantly scanning the physical security cameras on the ceiling or intensely watching the officers themselves instead of just staring down at their phone like everyone else in line.
Oh, that makes sense. If you're watching the cops are going to watch you.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And crucially, they really look for what they call pacifying behaviors.
Pacifying behaviors.
Yes. Things humans do to unconsciously soothe their own anxiety, touching the face, rubbing the back of the neck, or repeatedly checking the exact same pocket or compartment of a bag over and over again.
Oh, wow. Okay, so Bruce, who is just terrified of getting in trouble over his fancy shampoo, is standing in the middle of this line, repeatedly tapping the front pocket of his backpack just to make sure his little Ziploc bag is still in there.
Exactly. Bruce is sweating over his Pantene Pro V. But you have to remember, the security officer who is observing him from 30 feet away, they do not know why Bruce is sweating.
They can't see the shampoo.
They cannot see the shampoo through the heavy nylon of his backpack. All the officer sees is a traveler displaying classic, textbook signs of deception, high anxiety, and hypervigilance.
That is so unfortunate.
It is. Bruce's intense, genuine desire to flawlessly adhere to this arbitrary liquid rule actually made him physically manifest the exact symptoms of someone trying to break a severe law.
He became his own worst enemy.
He really did. By radiating all this anxiety over compliance, he became the exact type of traveler the system is engineered to isolate and investigate.
I honestly had never thought of it that way. I always just assumed people got pulled over because the X-ray machine operator saw something weird on the screen, like a dense mass or something.
That happens, of course.
But you're saying Bruce's body language essentially flagged him in the system before his bag even hit the physical conveyor belt.
Yes, his behavior was the trigger.
His liquids became this psychological anchor, just dragging him down. His internal anxiety physically manifested as a roadblock in the system.
And remember, the system operates on friction. The goal is flow. Bruce introduced friction through his nervous, anomalous behavior, and the consequence, as the text very explicitly states, is that he gets pulled aside for a bag check.
The dreaded bag check.
We really need to break down the anatomy of this specific moment because within the micro-society of the airport, the bag check is the ultimate disruption. It is the system functioning exactly as intended to neutralize an anomaly.
It is the absolute worst feeling in the world. It is the dreaded red light.
Oh.
I mean, you are standing there, you've made it through the weird millimeter wave metal detector thing, you are finally putting your shoes back on, and you look over at the conveyor belt.
And it stops.
The belt just stops. The agent sitting behind that thick plexiglass screen squints really hard at their monitor. They lean in close to the screen, they push a button, and the belt literally reverses direction.
It's a terrible sound.
It is. Then they point at a bag, look up at this crowd of half-dressed, stressed-out people, and say in a loud voice, "Whose black rolling suitcase is this?" And your stomach just absolutely drops into your shoes.
That physical sensation you feel, that intense stomach drop, is your body's realization of a profound shift in your social status.
The status.
Yes. Up until that exact moment, Bruce was just a part of the herd. He was moving with the continuous flow of the terminal, largely anonymous, entirely cloaked by the sheer volume of other people.
Just another guy in socks.
But the moment his bag is pulled by the agent, that forward progress completely halts. The protocol is designed to keep thousands of people moving relentlessly forward, so stopping is the ultimate anomaly.
It breaks the flow.
When Bruce steps up and claims that bag, he is physically separated from his belongings, and he is segregated from the flow of the cleared passengers. It is an incredibly vulnerable, highly exposed physical position to be in.
You literally become the sole focus of the entire security apparatus. You have to do this awful, humiliating walk of shame over to the metal inspection table.
It feels like a mile.
And honestly, the worst part isn't even the federal agent staring at you. It's the other passengers. Everyone behind you in line who is rushing to catch their own flight is suddenly just staring daggers at you.
No, the social judgment is intense.
You can feel them silently judging you, thinking, look at this guy holding up the entire line. What an idiot. What on earth did he try to sneak through? You go from being a fellow traveler in the trenches with them to being an obstacle they resent.
And then, during the actual physical bag check, the authority of the state becomes absolute and incredibly intimate.
It's very invasive.
You are explicitly instructed not to touch your own property.
Yeah.
The officer asks you if you have any sharp or dangerous objects inside, which places the legal liability directly onto your verbal declaration.
It's a legal trap.
And then, a complete stranger wearing blue nitrile gloves physically invades your privacy. They unzip your carefully packed luggage, they move your personal clothing aside, they touch your most intimate personal items, actively searching for the offending object, which, in Bruce's case, is just his liquids.
It strips away every single ounce of your dignity. You are literally standing there in your socks, holding up your pants because you don't have a belt on, watching a government employee unpack your clean underwear just to pull out a bottle of SPF 50 sunscreen.
It's deeply humbling.
And according to the source material we're analyzing, all of this humiliation occurred simply because Bruce lacked that total confidence.
That's the crux of it.
If Bruce had just packed his liquids, completely understood the 3.4-ounce rule, and approached the checkpoint with the absolute certainty that he was compliant, his brain wouldn't have triggered that severe amygdala response.
Exactly. He wouldn't have flooded with cortisol.
He wouldn't have displayed the micro-expressions of anxiety. He would have flowed straight through the behavioral profiling net, completely unnoticed.
Precisely. Because the protocol demands fictionless compliance. Friction, even if it stems from totally innocent internal anxiety rather than, malicious intent, causes the machine to stop, isolate you, and inspect you.
The machine doesn't care about your intent.
Not at all. The machine cannot distinguish between the fear of a terrorist and the fear of a man who just packed too much skin lotion. It only detects the fear itself.
Man. Okay, so let's fast forward a bit. Let's assume Bruce survives the trauma of the bag check. The officer pulls out the slightly too large bottle of expensive sunscreen, aggressively drops it into that giant plastic trash can full of half-drank Dasani water bottles, which, by the way, watching your expensive stuff go into the trash is a whole separate level of emotional pain.
It hurts every time.
But finally, Bruce is officially granted clearance. He shoves all his clothes back into his bag, grabs his shoes, and scrambles away from the checkpoint and out into the main terminal.
The hard part is over, right?
That's what you think. He could finally take a deep breath, right? He made it. But the narrative of our source text abruptly shifts here. It does not let us rest. It immediately moves to the final phase, the gate and the boarding process.
Yes. The gate.
But why? I mean, if security was the big hurdle, why is the boarding gate highlighted as this major ongoing obstacle to total confidence?
This transition in the text is so crucial to understanding the full scope of the airport environment. Like you said, the natural human instinct is to believe that once you survive the physical and psychological gauntlet of federal security, the hard part is over.
You think you're in the clear.
You think you can relax. But the source specifically targets understanding gate announcements as the next major, completely indispensable skill. This implies something fundamental about the microsociety we're in.
What does it imply?
It implies that the protocol does not end when you clear security. It merely mutates. It completely changes its form, its enforcers, and its vocabulary.
So the rules just change on us. We just spent all this mental energy learning how to submit to the TSA, and now we have to learn a completely new game.
Essentially, yes. You are experiencing a massive shift in authority structures. At the security checkpoint, you are subjugated to government federal authority.
Right.
Their singular mandate is physical safety and threat detection. as we discussed, their language is imperative, it's penal, and it's legally binding. If you fail their protocol, you go to a holding room or you go to jail.
High stakes.
Very high stakes. But once you walk away from that specific checkpoint and arrive at the departure gate, you transition into the domain of corporate airline authority.
Ah, corporate authority.
Their mandate is entirely different from the TSA. They are not looking for weapons or threats. They are managing logistical efficiency, turnaround times for the aircraft, and most importantly, enforcing a rigid customer hierarchy.
Oh, the hierarchy.
Because the mandate changes, the vocabulary changes entirely.
That makes so much sense. I've never consciously separated the two phases like that.
Yeah.
The TSA agent barks at you, take your shoes off, laptops out, step forward. It's purely functional and aggressive.
Right.
So then you get to the gate, and the airline agent picks up the microphone and says, "We would now like to invite our Platinum Medallion, Diamond Elite members to board at this time through the priority lane."
Such a different tone.
It totally shifts from barking orders to this bizarre, heavily padded, pseudo-polite corporate speak.
But do not let that polite customer service tone fool you for a second. It is still a rigid, unforgiving protocol. And this is exactly why the source text emphasizes the necessity of actively decoding the gate.
Decoding it, because it's not straightforward.
Why is understanding gate announcements elevated to the exact same level of importance as surviving federal security? Because gate announcements are notoriously garbled by poor acoustics, they are chaotic, and they dictate an incredibly complex social caste system.
They always sound like the teacher from the Charlie Brown cartoons. Like, wah, 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 boarding group C.
It's impossible to hear clearly.
It is. You are sitting there, your adrenaline from the security encounter is finally crashing. You are just trying to eat a remarkably overpriced, incredibly dry turkey sandwich you bought at a kiosk, and suddenly you have to decipher this static-filled loudspeaker just to figure out if it's your turn to stand up.
And what you are actively deciphering in that moment is your exact socioeconomic place within the airline system.
Your exact place. Wow.
The boarding process is the strict enforcement of a manufactured hierarchy. They announce pre-boarding for those requiring physical assistance, then active military, then first class,
The VIPs.
then a dizzying array of frequent flyer tiers, which is based entirely on how much money passengers have historically spent with that specific airline.
Right, the diamond, the platinum, the gold.
Exactly. Finally, after all of that, they reach the general boarding groups. And those are often segregated by where you sit on the plane, or worse, whether you bought a basic economy ticket that explicitly denies you access to the overhead bin space.
It is entirely designed to make you feel bad about your status if you aren't in group one. Like you just sit there watching all the important people walk by.
Well, from a corporate perspective, it is designed to incentivize brand loyalty through public validation. But practically, for the passenger, it creates immense anxiety.
Because you're terrified of messing it up.
If you approach that scanner desk before your specific designated group is explicitly called, you are violating the corporate protocol.
And they will let you know.
Oh, they will. The scanner will flash bright red, it will make a loud negative buzzing sound, and the gate agent will publicly tell you to step aside and wait your turn. This creates another moment of intense public embarrassment and friction.
It's like a mini bag check.
Exactly. It's very similar to the bag check, just with lower non-federal stakes.
Which perfectly explains the whole gate lice phenomenon. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh, the gate lice. Yes.
It's the people who crowd around the boarding lane, hovering just inches from the scanner, 20 minutes before the plane is even ready to board, completely ignoring the announcements. They're just standing there blocking everyone.
Precisely. The term gate lice is obviously derogatory, but sociologically speaking, it perfectly describes people who lack the total confidence that our source text promises.
They lack confidence, so they hover.
They hover because they do not understand the protocol or they do not trust it to work for them. So their internal anxiety forces them to physically crowd the bottleneck. They are driven entirely by a scarcity mindset.
Scarcity of what? Bin space.
Exactly. They know that overhead bin space on a modern aircraft is a very finite resource. They fear that if they don't board immediately, their carry-on bag will be forcibly taken away and checked into the dark cargo hold, which is a major inconvenience at their destination.
It adds like 30 minutes to your trip.
At least. Mastering the gate announcements means understanding exactly when you have permission to move. It means eliminating the anxiety of the wait and gracefully entering the system at your precise, designated moment. The boarding process is the climax of the entire airport journey. It is the final, tension-filled transition from the anxiety of clearance to the ultimate sanctuary of the cabin.
Wait, let me just stop you there and really question the core premise of this entire guide.
Okay, go ahead.
If mastering the airport protocol requires anticipating the TSA's demands, keeping my cognitive RAM from crashing, actively decoding my own behavioral microexpressions so I don't end up looking like Bruce, and then actively translating a garbled corporate hierarchy at the gate just to ensure I have a place to put my suitcase,
It's a lot of work.
it's exhausting. What does this actually mean for the listener's experience? Does this mean there is literally no moment of peace in an airport?
That's the million-dollar question.
Like, you survive security, you walk a whole mile to gate 42, you finally sit down, and you still can't relax. You just have to sit there, hypervigilant, actively decoding static announcements until your specific zone is called. This text doesn't sound like a guide to confidence anymore. It honestly sounds like a survival manual for a deeply hostile environment.
You have hit on the most profound, unsettling realization of the text. It completely shatters the illusion of rest.
The illusion of rest.
The harsh reality, according to the framework of this source material, is that there is absolutely no true rest until you are physically strapped into your seat in the cabin.
Wow.
The text makes it abundantly clear that to travel with total confidence requires active, continuous listening, constant decoding, and nonstop anticipating right up until the very moment you scan your boarding pass and walk down that jet bridge.
It's a marathon.
We really like to think of the terminal concourse, the big area with the restaurants and the expensive duty-free shops, as a place of leisure.
Yeah, grab a beer, buy a magazine.
Exactly. But psychologically, it is just a giant holding pen. You are tethered to the gate's timeline. You must remain vigilant, processing the corporate language, understanding your exact zone, and executing the final boarding maneuver perfectly to avoid having your bag checked.
It is relentless. You are basically volunteering to be an active, self-managing piece of cargo in a massive logistical supply chain.
Self-managing cargo, that is brilliant.
Right. From the moment you park your car at the terminal until the moment you finally sit down in seat 14B, you are working.
You are. You are the cargo. But unlike a cardboard box, you must self-sort and self-propel through all these different checkpoints.
And pay for the privilege.
Recognizing that reality, rather than fighting it or being constantly surprised by it, is the true essence of mastering the protocol. When you accept the harsh rules of the environment, you stop generating the internal friction that causes all the anxiety.
Wow. Okay. We have covered a tremendous amount of psychological ground today. Let's synthesize this journey for everyone listening.
Good idea.
We started with this conceptual, almost utopian goal presented by the source material: achieving total confidence in an environment specifically designed to make you feel completely powerless.
And we moved from that high-level concept down into the very real biological friction of the security line.
Right, the RAM crashing.
We explored how the authoritative rapid-fire commands of security officers create a massive cognitive bottleneck. They trigger an amygdala response that literally shrinks our working memory and makes basic language comprehension a sudden, terrifying struggle.
Then we zoomed in on our case study, Bruce. Poor Bruce and his liquids.
We'll never forget Bruce.
Never. We analyzed that bizarre hyperfixation on mundane objects and how Bruce's intense internal anxiety over just following the rules perfectly actually caused him to physically manifest the microexpressions of deception.
Which is so unfair.
It really is. He created a self-fulfilling prophecy that ended in the ultimate disruption, the dreaded, publicly humiliating bag check.
And finally, we navigated the last major threshold. We examined the abrupt shift from the imperative penal authority of the government at security over to the pseudo-polite hierarchical authority of the corporation at the gate.
From the state to the airline.
We decoded the necessity of understanding those garbled gate announcements, revealing the hidden caste system of boarding zones, and confirming that true confidence requires continuous, hypervigilant participation right up until you enter the cabin.
So how does this change things for you, the listener, the next time you have a flight to catch? Well, it gives you an entirely new, incredibly powerful lens through which to view the world.
A completely new perspective.
The next time you walk through those sliding glass doors at departure, you aren't just a victim of the chaotic lines and the loud noises anymore. You are an active participant who basically sees the matrix.
You can read the code.
You can literally stand near the security line, sipping your coffee, and you can spot all the Bruces of the world. You can watch the people sweating over their Ziploc bags, constantly tapping their pockets, and you'll understand the exact biological and behavioral reasons why they are about to be pulled aside for a bag check.
You'll see it coming before the TSA agent even points at them.
Exactly. And then you will hear the gate agent announce Group 2, and you won't feel a spike of panic if you are in Group 4 because you fundamentally understand the corporate choreography.
You won't be gate lice.
You will not crowd the scanner. You will have achieved that total confidence, not because you are somehow braver than everyone else, but because you deeply understand the hidden mechanics of the system you are moving through. You have learned how to eliminate your own friction.
You have successfully deciphered the unwritten constitution of the microsociety.
Exactly. Wait, actually, I almost agree with you a little too quickly there. Let me offer one final thought before we wrap up today.
A curveball. I like it.
Just something a little provocative for you to mull over while you are standing at baggage claim on your next trip. We have spent this entire deep dive unpacking how achieving total confidence in travel relies completely on perfectly understanding, anticipating, and obeying a set of rigid, manufactured instructions.
Right. That's the whole premise of the guide.
We feel powerful and confident when we successfully submit to the TSA and seamlessly decode the gate agent's corporate hierarchy. But honestly, it begs a much larger question.
Which is?
If our supreme confidence in the airport is derived purely from our ability to smoothly submit to a protocol, how much of our everyday confidence in regular society, like in our corporate jobs or in our social circles, is exactly the same thing?
Oh, wow. That is a heavy question.
Are we ever truly in charge of our own journey, carving our own unique path? Or is our confidence just a measure of how good we have gotten at mimicking compliance to systems and hierarchies we never had a hand in designing?
Are we just executing the protocol everywhere we go?
Exactly. Are we the masters of our fate? Or are we just really, really good at listening to the announcements? Think about that the next time you hear. Clearance granted. See you next time on The Deep Dive.